Hey, this is Dave with DII. We're doing our DII live broadcast today on YouTube, so thanks for being with us today. Today we're going to be talking with a few guests that I'm bringing along, Susannah B. and John Ballinger. They've worked in some Hollywood studios, making recording projects and doing all sorts of fun stuff with recording. And recently, actually maybe it's 2 years ago now, they did a recording with Handpan, and I was actually there, and I actually helped record the Handpan. So I wanted to bring them in and interview them and talk about how the production of using Handpan in the studio works, and just in general, like how they work with their music lives. And but basically, we're going to try to focus on how the Handpan was used in their recording process and talk about all the details. So first of all, if you haven't been with us before and if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please look down over here on the right-hand side, as you always have seen other people do. Go below and you find the little red word that says subscribe. Please subscribe to our channel. It'd be great to have you as a subscriber. We do live shows pretty much every week on Saturdays at 1:00 p.m. Dave's Island Instruments, DII, is the business. I'm the owner. I'm David Beery. And we do these live shows. Here at DII, we sell predominantly handpans, ukuleles, and steel drums. And we also do the service for those instruments also. So if you're interested in any of those instruments, we do live shows. I do a live handpan show every 2 weeks. And then Daniel does a live ukulele show every 2 weeks. So we kind of flip-flop on Saturdays at 1:00 p.m. So if you're interested in any of those, please check us out the next time. All right, so we're going to be talking. Also, by the way, if you're on Facebook, like us on Facebook. Look for @Dave's Island Instruments. We also post lots of notifications there of what's coming up, sales and that sort of thing. So please go to Facebook and like us there as well. All right, so we've got two people coming up. Like I said, Susannah B. and John Ballinger. We're going to be talking about a recording project that they did. And before we start talking to them, I'm going to give you like a little insight into how I got involved with the project. Obviously, I make handpans, and Susannah, I believe, contacted me, wanted to get one. And I didn't really know her at the time. She was a customer that called. And so we coordinated and got a handpan. And then John Ballinger somehow got involved, and I was like, "Oh, John," because I'd known John in the '90s from playing steel drums in steel drum bands and that sort of thing. And so he called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping me with this recording project that I'm doing with Susannah?" And I said, "Oh, okay, that sounds like fun." Truthfully, I haven't done a whole lot of recording for other people with handpan, so it was a little bit of an anxious thing for me. I was like a little nervous about it. But it was super fun. It was up in Hollywood, and I'd never recorded in Hollywood before at a studio. So that was like super awesome, a really fun experience for me. And that's how I got involved. And it was a classic recording session where somebody calls you up, says, "Hey, can you play this?" He sent me some music. I worked on the music at home, went into the recording studio, and I got into the booth, got all mic'd up. And this is the part that I love about the story is, they say, "Okay, here we go. We're going to press the record button. Here we go. Everybody's set," because everything was live. There was a live piano, live drums, live bass, live percussion, and me all playing at the same time and all recording at the same time. And so here comes the pressure, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've practiced this. I'm feeling pretty confident with it. And they say, "Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. And all of a sudden, silence. And I'm thinking to myself, well, and the click track, of course, click track is going. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm playing solo. So for the first, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds, I was like the only one playing. And then finally the other instruments start coming in. I was like, oh my gosh, the sweat started dripping off my brow. But it was so much fun, and we had a great time. And John and Susannah were wonderful during that session. And it ultimately turned out great. And I want to show you a little bit more. And that's what I'm really excited about with this show, to show you how it all turned out and to interview Susannah and John and just get more information about how the whole story unfolded. So here we go. So Susannah, I'd like to bring you on. Susannah, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
All right, there you are.
Hey, Dave.
Ladies and
everybody.
Gentlemen, Susannah B. Yeah.
Hi.
All right, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself to get us, so that way we know a little bit more about you.
Okay. I'm a singer-songwriter. I've been recording my own albums and writing songs and singing for about 25 years. And I'm from New York City, but I have lived in LA now for longer than I lived in New York City. And I've been working and collaborating with John Ballinger for almost 25 years as well, or maybe longer. So I'm here to sing the praises of finding people who you really get along with and connect with, and just keep working with them.
Absolutely,
and I'll show you a little sample of my self-release albums. If you're an indie artist, that doesn't mean that you can't release albums. And more than ever now, with the internet and Spotify and all the ways you can share your music, it's pretty incredible. So here's my first full-length album, was with John Ballinger. And then my second album, I worked with a different producer named Rich Jacks. And then my third album, John and I did just a couple of years ago. Excuse me, my voice. This is chill electronica, very spiritual and very cool. And then this album, the most recent one that Dave is talking about, was a jazz album for the first time I was singing songs that I did not write, that were written by a guy named Alec Wilder, who was really big in the 40s and 50s, who wrote a lot of hit songs for his good friends who were like Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Peggy Lee, people like that. So I got involved with some musicians who turned me on to that music. And after singing it live for a couple of years, I decided to put my favorite songs on an album. And that's how we got together with Dave.
Very cool. Hey, could you show the album cover one more time? The video froze. Yeah, I didn't see the album cover completely. Show it one more time for us. Girl Gone Wild.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
I'm holding up the actual LP. I got LPs as well as CDs and things like that. But it's all on Spotify. I have two albums under Susannah B, and then another album under Camp Susannah, and another album under Susannah Blinkoff. So here's my advice to you aspiring musical artists: don't change your artist name 3 times, because iTunes, Spotify, they won't lump you together no matter what you do. So it's kind of the best thing to do is go to my website if you're interested and check out all my music is there, which is susannahb.com.
By the way, I did go to iTunes and Amazon and I looked up Susannah B and I did find you. So I think you can be found though. Yeah. So it was there, I believe.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, yeah, I'm there, but I'm not all my albums.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Got it.
You know what I mean?
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. All right, I'm going to bring on John Ballinger now. John, come on screen.
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Hey, so you and I kind of go back a little bit. We've played in steel drum bands and done other little projects together. And in fact, by the way, John played guitar on a recording that I made about 4 or 5 years ago. And so it was really awesome having him on my recording. So we've known each other for quite some time. But John, for those of you who don't know who you are, can you give them a little bit of a bio, just a little bit of what you've done in the past and who you are?
So I'm a much better musician than self-promoter, but I'll give it a shot. My name's John Ballinger. I'm a composer and a musician, a native Angelino. I've known Dave for a long. Well, I've probably known Dave just a short time shorter than I've known Susannah. My recent projects include I scored a feature film starring J.K. Simmons and Tom Arnold and Leslie Ann Warren called 3 Days with Dad. I've been on tours with revered artists like Tracy Bonham and Rufus Wainwright as a multi-instrumentalist. And recently, regarding the Handpan, I just played on Sean Penn's latest feature film called Flag Day. A lot of acoustic guitar and a lot of handpan. So it's coming out in a motion picture near you. Well,
cool.
That's the problem. Now there aren't going to be any motion pictures for another, except on like Apple and, so I'm not sure how they're going to distribute that, but it's on the soundtrack. The handpan is on the soundtrack. So
very cool.
That's me. I also teach at Cal State LA. So any of you younger, or it doesn't matter, we have all ages. Any people out there want to get a great education, come on by. And that's it.
Nice. I loved it. That was good. I didn't know those things. So, hey, by the way, for the people that are out there watching right now, I forgot to mention, if anybody has any comments or questions, feel free to write into the comments section below the video. And we've got people watching right now. Daniel's in the background doing all the video technology, and he posts questions and put them on screen. And if it's a good question, we will talk about it and maybe get those answered for you live here as we're talking. So feel free to put comments in there and we will answer you ASAP. It'd be fun to get the interaction. Okay, so here we are. So we've got all three of us now talking. We've kind of got our bios going. Now, again, like I told my little story about how the handpan got into your hands and then how I got involved with your project. And the song that I played on was Blackberry Winter. It's a gorgeous tune that, and of course, again, with the recording project, I was only there for one day, just listening to parts, just, for the first time. I'd never heard the arrangement before. So then I left the building and I'd never heard the final edit. I'd never heard the final mix. And so it took a long time for me to finally hear ultimately how the song sounded. So I kind of want to get into that with you guys a little bit of like all the nuances of the project and that sort of thing. But Daniel, do you have a sample of that song for us? So before we start talking to it, we can hear the sample.
Which song are we looking for?
Blackberry Winter.
Blackberry Winter.
All right, here we go.
And here comes the voice.
Blackberry winter comes without a warning, just when you think that spring's around to stay. Then you wake up on a cold, rainy morning and wonder what on earth became of May. Blackberry winter only lasts a few days, just long enough.
I love this song. It's so good.
To get you feeling sad.
Thank you. It's a beautiful song.
All the love that you
A
wasted.
little longer. I want to hear a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Oh, cut it off. That's okay. So, hey, it's absolutely gorgeous. And anybody out there that wants to get a copy of it should go out and buy it. So it's a really gorgeous tune, and it just progresses, and you get to hear clarinets, saxophones, all sorts of other instruments come in and out. So John and Susannah. So real quick, for people that don't really know how music production works, what does it mean to be a producer versus an artist, and how did that work between the two of you?
Ladies
Well,
first,
I'm an artist who self-produces. I'm really lucky that way, that I have the ability, the funds to do that. And so I had been, like I said, I got involved with this group of musicians in LA who were all studio musicians. It turned out a guy who lived across the street from me had heard me sing, and he invited me to be the singer for these evenings of all Alec Wilder music. And Alec Wilder, like I said, was in the 40s and 50s, really big. But he was quite eccentric, and he wrote a lot of different kinds of music. And so anyway, he had especially appealed to brass musicians who, because he wrote like symphonies and small pieces for weird combinations of instruments, like conga and flute, or tuba quartet with 4 tubas. Like, he was really a wacky guy.
Yeah.
He also wrote these gorgeous songs. So after about 2 years of playing live at these house concerts, I'd gotten a sense of which songs I liked. And then John, I've played with so many times live, and we've recorded so many albums together. He was the person who it made sense for me to turn to. First, he was just joining the band and playing bass, actually, which he can play anything. And so he was playing bass, which isn't his usual instrument. But then when I said, I'm thinking about doing an album, I think I should do an album of Alec Wilder songs, John got really excited, like more excited than I'd ever seen you get about anything else. You were inspired. And I was looking through my emails last night between us, because I basically sort of said, I'm trying to figure out what is my sound. And one of the things about me as an artist is I've had a lot of different kinds of sounds. I can sing a lot of different styles. And this was specifically jazz, but it didn't make sense for me to approach it as a pure jazz artist because I come from a kind of an eclectic pop, background. That's who I am as a writer. Yeah. And so I wanted to kind of find this place where I could sing Alec Wilder, but it would make sense to me as well, to me as the artist, Susannah B. And so John and I started talking about instruments that I've always loved or that I, gravitate towards. I'm always a groove person. I always get into the groove first. And so we talked a lot about bass and different grooves for Alec Wilder's songs. Even when they're slow, they have a groove. And so then I kind of just said to him, okay, I gave him the sheet music and he would go away. And I remember, John, we were kind of under a deadline because I wanted to reserve this special studio that Dave was talking about in Hollywood called Sage and Sound, which is a classic recording studio. Sadly, it has been sold and it is no longer alive.
Oh my gosh.
But it was Chet Baker's studio in the 70s. It was an incredible place. And so anyway, I had reserved it for 2 weeks in January. And so John really had to work fast, which I think was probably a good thing. And he would just send me, kind of ideas and tracks and build certain things. And the Blackberry Winter, honestly, I sort of said, I think we should try Handpan on this. And then he sent back this incredible thing. Like it was done.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Interesting. So just quickly, going back to the quick first question. So you were just saying that you were kind of like the artist and producer, and then does that make John the arranger then, or how does? I'm just kind of wondering the word producer. Yes. You hear that a lot these days, like so and so's a producer, and I never quite understand what that means anymore. So is that what you were, the artist producer, or how did that work?
Well, John and I co-produced. Now this is our third album, John, that we've done together, and so yes. We have a shorthand between us, and we just decided a while ago, okay, we're both in the room, we're both making decisions, even though he plays all the instruments and I play nothing. I play the voice, and I do have ideas about instruments and things like that sometimes. And so we share the producing credit, and then he was definitely doing the arrangements. Yes. Got
it. Cool. So John, let's tell us how you were engaged in the project and how you felt about, like, what title did you give to yourself?
Well, I think on this one, I was primarily at least initially, the arranger. And what arranging is taking, it's not actually creating original work. So we took these original songs of Alec Wilder's, and then I knew who the personnel was going to be in our band, what the instrumentation was going to be, and what their capabilities were. And I knew the lyrics and the melodies and the chords. And I knew that we needed to transpose them into keys that Susannah could sing. That was already done for me. So these are all things that an arranger thinks of. Who can do what instrument are they playing? What are those instruments capable of? For instance, does the woodwind player need to play on an alto saxophone because I need a woodwind that's way up high? Or can he stay on his favorite tenor saxophone? So those are things. And we had a percussionist who had all different kinds of instruments. What was the scale of the handpan that Dave had available because of this deadline? So Dave didn't have to make a new one for us. We figured out this Blackberry Winter song is in this earth scale. Is that what you call it, Dave?
Yeah, the earth scale. Interestingly, I think the tune was written in E flat or B flat, and there was one note that didn't quite work on the handpan, but we were able to navigate around it or something like that.
Yeah, and the navigating is the job of the arranger. You navigate around or through or with whatever is available on the project. So you're taking someone's original music and arranging it in a creative way. So the arrangements are original, but the songs aren't. That's the arranging part. The co-producing part for me as a producer would be creating the sheet music for everybody. And now on the computer, creating what are called mock-ups for everybody to listen to. This is what it's sort of going to sound like from what I can do on my computer. And then taking the sheet music and those mock-ups to the musicians. Of course, the whole thing is according to Susannah's vision, because she's the artist and the executive producer. So you're always following the artist's vision. So the job of an arranger and a producer is not for people who are insecure about themselves or faint of heart,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you're serving another person's vision the whole time. And
Yeah.
if you don't really dig that, you should maybe try something else. But I
Yeah. No,
really
it's
dig
interesting.
that. So,
So I kind of remember being in the studio with you, John, and on that topic of like trusting people and that sort of thing and being willing to work with other people's ideas. I remember you were having me do a couple things on the handpan, and then you'd say, "Hey, Dave, can you do it a little faster?" And you did it very in a very good way where I didn't feel I don't know, pressured or anything like that. So I tried again, like
yeah,
take number 2 or whatever. Then I can't remember what you said. You said something like, "Dave, I really liked what you did do there. Just do it 1,000 times more." I'm like, "Okay."
yeah,
And so I just did my
yeah,
little 1,000 times more. But yeah, working back and forth when you're recording stuff, it takes a trust and you have to be emotionally
yeah,
prepared for it too. Because sometimes it's not always like an emotional. It's not always. Some people take it emotionally, like, "Oh, you played it wrong" or something. But sometimes the producer or the arranger is just looking for something that different than they played. It's not so much they played it bad or whatever. So yeah, it's a fascinating
yeah.
process.
I think people take things personally, and I think that is appropriate to a certain extent. There's always a balance there. I think we all take things personally because we're people
Sure.
and we're expressing ourselves. And so that's where the people skills come in, I think, as a producer, where you might have, a musician come to the studio and he's late because he lives far away and it's pouring rain. And he comes and you can see that he's upset about being late. Number one, he's
Right.
already feeling bad.
Right. Anxious. Yeah.
So then you see that and you work with that. And then Susannah has an idea. She tells me what she wants. Sometimes I translate that to the other musicians. Sometimes she just says it herself. So you're always just flowing.
Right.
You don't want to block anything. And inevitably there's going to be some kind of dust up, but if there's enough love in the room, you're going
Yeah.
to get through it. And after that, it'll feel even better. So that's my take
Absolutely.
on the arranging and producing and the difference in the blend there. So
Yeah.
that's
Cool.
it.
It's true. And I will say that like our previous project that John and I had done just a year earlier, the electronic chill thing was just me and John in his studio, just the two of us, and that was a completely
Yeah.
different dynamic, spending like many, many, many hours together, just the two of us, as opposed to this live album, which was really different. I'd never done an album
Yeah.
like that before. And I'd never done an album of songs that weren't mine, that I hadn't written myself. So
Yeah.
it was different in every way. And it was really quite an adventure. It was fun. And I will say we just got named one of the 20 top jazz albums of 2020
That's
by
amazing.
the LA jazz scene, which is really cool. Yeah. I'm proud
Yeah.
of the
No,
work.
it's absolutely. Yeah, it's really good. It's super good. So yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Hey, I want to go back a little bit. So, John, I'm going to come back to you with a couple questions about arranging. And Susannah, I want to ask you a quick question. So you told me when we were prepping for the video that you actually had worked with a handpan before this project. And I just kind of want to get the story of how you got acquainted with handpan in the first place. And maybe we could pull up a recording of that song that you did before this project.
Yeah, I'd love to. It was through John. I met John so long ago. He played at my wedding, and I've been married for almost 25 years, or 20 years. So we've known each other a long time. And John was the one who said to me, "Hey, you should meet my friend Ray. He plays this cool handpan. I bet you'll like it." And
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact specifics, but I had a song in my head that was I had the lyrics, I had the groove, and I kept singing it a cappella to this weird percussion track that I found at like some meditation site or something. And I kept, and it was just conga and me singing it. And I kept thinking, I need something else, something melodic.
Right.
And so I sang it one day, sat down with Ray, and I'm sure John was there as well. But we sat down and I started singing and I sang a couple of notes to Ray, and he found them on the handpan, and like it just was this incredibly magical, cool thing. And I have sung that song in performance live many, many times, just me and the handpan. And every time, like no matter what gig it was, or I did it in a one-woman show that I did at a certain point in Hollywood, people would just react so strongly, because I think a cappella voice is a very powerful thing. like with one instrument, but particularly the handpan is so haunting and so beautiful and like just has so many different tones and feelings to it. So yes, I had done it for my first full-length album with John and Ray. And we actually did like just me and the handpan version. And then we did a remixed, more electronic version. Both cuts are on the album. So we can hear it.
Also, I can't wait. I want to listen to that electronic album because I'm really into the electronic thing right now. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, this was made by you. You made this handpan as well. I know Ray got it from you, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
So if you do
John,
oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if you want to hear it, Way Okay. I think, Daniel, I told you where to go.
Oh, the song that's by Daniel. There it is. Yeah.
I was a bit for this morning, thinking about how everything could go so wrong, everything could go away. You know that people leave, love fades, time is a slippery hill. I was a bit for this morning, but the voice inside my head said, voice inside my head said, it's gonna be alright, 'cause deep inside the music is the place I'm going to stay. Deep inside the rhythm, I'm way okay. I'm way okay. I'm way okay.
That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of like blues meets the handpan kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds so good.
It's really cool. That's why I'm bringing you guys here. I'm so tickled to have you guys here because people frequently ask us, like, what can I do with my handpan? Like, how can I use it differently or whatever? And you guys are showing us all sorts of awesome examples right now of the options that are available.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. And my next step is to learn to play it, because I've always just hung out with people like John and Ray who play it really well, and you, Dave. But now I actually do want to learn how to play some stuff myself.
Awesome. We're gonna get
I will say though,
going.
That's right. I will say though that to people who don't feel super confident about being like really, really trained, you know, there's all kinds of musicians, and there's musicians like John who are wildly trained, know everything, and theoretically and musically, and people like me who are just more intuitive. And I felt really embarrassed about that for a long time, and like that I wasn't, you know, kind of good enough. But it took me a while to realize, oh, you know, I have good instincts, and I have a musicality in me that is very natural, and sometimes it does cool things that aren't restrained by like what's appropriate or what the rules are musically. So now I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah,
you are way okay.
Real quick, guys. Susannah, that song was awesome. I just wanted to say that. But I just want to give some shout outs here real quick to some of our watchers out there. We have Maria Kesey. Hopefully I said that right. She's in Dana Point. She says hi. Andy Anderson.
Oh yeah, Maria, how are you?
Andy Anderson from Omaha. Hi, Andy. How you doing, buddy?
Omaha. Cool.
Yes. Terry Sebastian from Ontario, Canada. And Eli, one of our handpan customers, Holistic State.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Eli's out there. Right on.
He's out there too. So just want to give a quick shout out.
Yeah. By the way, since Daniel mentioned that, if anybody out there has any questions for us, please put them in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be talking. I want to talk to John now a little bit about the recording part. So like the kind of microphones we used and like the music that he wrote. So we're going to go a little technical right now. So if anybody has any technical questions, feel free to put them in the comments. So John, just FYI, when I did this project with you, it was the very, very first time I'd ever had seen handpan music written on a page. So Daniel, on that little scheme right there of the pictures, there's one of the handpan with the sheet music. I don't know if you can pull that up a little bit more, but so John, tell us a little bit about how you wrote it on the page. Like, what were your thoughts about writing it on the page?
Well, in some ways, that's the easy part. Is
Okay.
because when you're, for instance, if you're writing a story or writing an email, you're the whole process begins with an idea, and then the writing of the email is simply recording your, in a less abstract way, your thought. So I kept the line on the handpan, that the line for that, the opening of the piece, and then just simply recording that in, on paper was the easy part. But there's, as everybody who has a handpan knows, there's several notes, and then there's this big fat thing here in the middle. It's the lowest note, and when you hit it, it rings everywhere. So what I thought was, well, that sounds like, when I think about sheet music, if anybody has ever seen any sheet music, particularly like piano, there are two staffs going by. And I thought, well, the low note of this hand should go on the lower staff, so that everybody who's reading this thing can know that, oh, that's that big fat thing in the middle. That's going to be on the bottom staff. And then it was just a matter of knowing exactly what the notes were. And since on this instrument there are a very limited amount of notes, it was actually easy to write the sheet music out.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I just think it's a fascinating subject, just because the handpan is such a new instrument to the world.
Yeah.
That there's really been no precedent for writing sheet music for it. And so I just thought it was kind of cool that you just took it on without any precedent. You just decided, okay, this is the way we're going to do it. And you did it, and you made it happen. So I just thought that was really cool. And I'm interested to see how it develops in the future, because I'm sure that at some point more sheet music is going to be written for a handpan. And it'll be interesting to see, because there's all sorts of nuances about the handpan. They're not just notes. There's like little techniques involved. So I'm not sure how people are going to notate that, but it'll be fun to see how that progresses.
Yeah, and so that's something I didn't do. Well, that's something since I didn't know all of these crazy cool, you can like bend a note. Dave can bend a note on a handpan, like a guitar player or like a blues singer. I didn't know how to do that. So my notation was very simple. It's just the note itself, not any bending or harmonics. But yeah, just like as like violin notation has changed over time, like with harmonics or sul tasto or sul ponticello or whatever, those notation practices have changed over the course of a few hundred years. So I'm guessing that, in the next 10 years or so, people like Dave are going to have all new techniques for sheet music. How do you get a harmonic? Mute the fifth on this note and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's really strange. So it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. So John, here's another technical thing. So when we were in the studio, we had to put microphones on the handpan. A lot of people have questions about microphones. I was guessing that you were probably going to tell me, well, you left it up to the engineer. But just tell us how that works. How does it work, like working with an engineer versus being the arranger? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
The engineer on that project was a guy named Chris Steffens, who has a tremendous amount of experience. But basically, the job of an engineer is to listen to an instrument and figure out where to put a microphone that best represents what qualities of that instrument you want to hear. For the handpan, Chris listened to this. You started to play it for him. He came into your little booth, your little soundproof booth there, and you're playing this thing, and he's starting to realize it's not like a trumpet where all of the sound comes out of the bell of a trumpet.
Right. Yeah.
The sound of this instrument goes everywhere. And that's one of the wonderful things I think one of the things that attracts people to it is that it just, all the harmonics and all the tones fill your ears. They fill the room. So how do you document that? And so what Chris did was he took two little, what are called pencil microphones. If I remember correctly, they just look like a little pipe, and they're high quality microphones. And he put two of them in a pattern like this, similar to the way your ears hear, over the top of the handpan, and that picked up thing that a human being with two functioning ears would hear. And then he just set the level. We had you play quietly and play loudly, to set a good
Right.
level and overload anything. And that was basically it.
Yeah. Very cool.
And then
So Susannah,
later on,
go ahead.
well, later on in another studio, we realized we needed to replace, I think, part of the first part. We realized that we needed to record what came out of the bottom here with this note separately. Because when you hit this note, everything else rings. Right? So we ended up just playing whenever this note was written on the sheet music, we recorded it separately so that we could mix this thing a little bit more cleanly. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a couple of techniques there. Yeah.
Yeah, a little magic
And that's when
studio
John
magic
calls
right
me. That's when John calls me and says, "So we have to record the low note on the handpan separately. So is it okay if I reserve the studio?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah," because I was the one who was paying for it.
Yeah, right. So Susannah, actually on that point, so I was there for recording and I was able to hear some of the playback, but then the next step in a recording, usually after all the recording is done, is the mixing, right? Were you there for any of the mixing, or how did you approach that?
Yes, I was there for the mixing, and we mixed in the studio, right, John? Which was, oh, we didn't?
No.
Oh.
There was Kevin Killen in New York.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that.
I was getting mixed up with recording and mixing. Yes. Tell about Kevin, because he's extraordinary.
I gladly. Yeah. So it ended up to where, here's another thing, Dave, regarding mixing and producing and etc. Sometimes, and in fact, I would argue that I have learned over the years, and especially in the last couple of projects, that if you are really close to a project, if you're producing it and you've been in it hands-on, it's probably better to have somebody else mix the final project.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
The mixes that I started off with and submitted to Susannah were pretty good. They were pretty good. But when I listened back to them a couple days ago, all of the parts that I played myself were very quiet.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to promote my part here,
Right.
So anyway, so I had also taken it to another guy, and our engineer made a couple passes, and then I took it to another guy, a friend of mine named Steve White, who took a pass at one of them, and none of it was working for me. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I said to Susannah, well, there are really fantastic mixers out there. And, I read off a couple names and what they had done. Ended up with, after Susannah talked with him and they discussed things, and I think she heard what she wanted to hear from him about how he treats a voice in any recording. So this is a guy named Kevin Killen. Probably his biggest claim to fame is that he produced and mixed the Peter Gabriel's album called So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's big. That's big.
You remember one of the biggest songs there was,
huge mixer.
Yeah, one of the biggest songs was In Your Eyes, from that movie, Say Anything. And so fantastic talent. Probably one of the nicest, most humble people I've ever met in my whole life. And I think, if I remember correctly, the thing that drew me to him, because I talked to a few other people as well in that echelon, he said, well, I always start with the voice, no matter what it is. If it's a rock, a symphony or a jazz, I start with the voice because it's a song.
Yeah.
And I think that's what helped Susannah go, yeah, that's my guy.
That's what sold me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's worked with, he's been nominated for many, many, many Grammys. He worked with, Yo-Yo Ma, as well as like Alicia Keys and Suzanne Vega, and so many people. Right. U2, just a little band named U2. So I was, when we spoke on the phone, because he was in New York, and he he said he started with the voice, and we really discussed things, and I just loved his personality, and so he initially said, okay, well, let's just start with 3. I'll mix 3 songs and see how it goes, or maybe it was 1 first, and then it was 3, and then he really liked what we had done and thought it was terrific, so he ended up mixing the whole album.
That's
and
awesome.
That's really where you have subtleties you don't realize that you had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then he sends files, and then you just do back and forth with notes. But he loved the handpan. He said, this is the first time we've got maybe the first time sheet music, maybe the first time handpan on a jazz album, and the first time Kevin Killen had ever even heard of or mixed a handpan. So
right. I love it. Yeah. No, this is super terrific. I just love this whole discussion because, I mean, I was only there for a snippet of it, right? And so I just love hearing the rest of the, like, wow, this project had tentacles everywhere. It went all sorts of different directions. Yeah. That's amazing. So, so for those people out there, go ahead.
Right. And after mixing comes mastering, which is a whole nother thing.
Right.
And that's like putting a gloss coating on your recording. And then with this particular project, I decided that I was going to release some LPs, some vinyl, which is, trendy now and has kind of come back. And so I actually sent it to a company in Orange County that I have to look on the thing to look at where it got made. But it was, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'll come up with it. But they sent me like movies, like film of the actual record, like being made and being carved into wax or whatever the heck they do. It was fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
Quick question, you guys. Got a quick question. Hate to interrupt. Actually, a shout out to Dariella in New York. She's watching in New York. Pamela in Ventura. And Maria, this is actually a great question because all 3 of you have played the handpan. You guys are talking about different instruments. So Maria asks, what instruments pair well with the handpan?
What instruments pair well with the handpan? I think both of you guys could help out with answering that. And Susannah, why don't you go first?
Okay, I don't play the handpan, but
but from your experience using the handpan.
I would say just what popped into my head was wind instruments. I think the combination of the handpan and like a flute or saxophone or anything with wind would sound really beautiful.
Interesting. Yeah, cool. Yeah. What do you think, John?
What I notice about the handpan, besides its beauty, is that it is not a particularly loud instrument. So and what we have always ended up doing live is putting a mic on the handpan so that it can be, projected better. Susannah is absolutely correct. It works well with voice. What I ended up using it with on Blackberry Winter was vibraphone, piano, clarinet, all kinds of percussive toys, and electric bass. So I don't think it needs to be used exclusively with other sort of idiomatic instruments like that. We don't need to think of it as something that, it's metallic and you hit it, so we should use it with like steel drum and vibraphone. I think the sky's the limit. I don't think there are any limitations actually.
I think that's true. And like I said on Way Okay, when we remixed it into this kind of more of a dance tune, it was, bass and drums just programmed, and it sounded really cool.
Yeah, nice. One instrument that I could think of that might not work very well would be bagpipes. And John, you can argue with me right now if you want about this, but that's my one thought. Is I'm not sure if that
argument.
Okay. Anyway, that's the only one that I could think of right off the top of my head that it might not work really well with. But I mean, bagpipes, I heard an AC/DC song with bagpipes in it one time, and that worked great. So you never know. It all depends on how it's arranged and how you put it together.
Maria says thank you.
Thank you for the question, Maria.
Terry says it easily can get lost. And Gigi Gump It says Gayland in Fernland, Washington. Says, ooh, Native American flute with Miguel Medina.
Oh
Pamela
yeah,
says,
Native
Sure.
American is amazing.
Pamela
Yeah.
says no bagpipes.
No bad. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
I think it lends itself, the handpan lends itself to that soothing kind of meditative sound that a lot of people associate with
Yeah.
spa music or meditation or Native American flute type thing. And that can be amazing. We also enjoyed, messing around with it and adding it in with other instruments that you wouldn't expect, like John said, like electric bass, just other
Yeah.
instruments that kind of cut through some of that soothing vibe.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting that in the studio for Sean Penn's latest film, I'm playing them the ranges, all these different notes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's great, whatever," and and then they were like, well, then they switched to a different cue, and this was like it was a little bit of an adventure, like a walking chase scene. And they say,
Yeah.
John, well, what can you do there? And I was like, I ended up just playing the big fat one right here in the middle.
Yeah.
And that does get quite loud, and so that worked
Right.
really
Right.
well for that thing. But none of it wasn't soothing at all. So I think when you first get this, you think of meditative stuff, but in
Right.
specific ways, it can be pretty strong.
Yeah, I
Right.
actually heard like a dance, like electronic dance music arrangement one time. So I just heard it somewhere, like at a yoga place or something like that. And it was a fast-paced electronic dance music thing, like boom, 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 right, like that kind of thing. And they had the handpan in it, and like a repeating pattern, but it was almost like it was overplayed to where it was kind of distorting a little bit on the handpan. But
Yeah.
with all the excitement of the electronic dance music, it fit. It was perfect. It needed to have a little bit overdriven sound, So it was interesting the way they used it in that. It was very effective.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that kind of sums it up. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Or Daniel, are there any other? I think we're going to wrap it up here. I think this was a really great discussion.
No questions right now. Terry Sebastian says, Groove on the Ding is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Groove on the Ding is amazing. Absolutely. All right. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Susannah, John, thank you so much for joining
you
us
so
today. It was
much.
a real pleasure. Yeah, because like I said, I mean, truthfully, I was looking back on our emails, and I think it's almost 2 years to the day, almost, that recording project in that studio when I showed up occurred. So
That's
it's
right.
been 2 years, and I've always wanted to talk with you guys and reflect on it. So this is the perfect opportunity to do it. So thank you so much.
Thanks. And
Dave,
check
thank
out
you.
SusannahB.com if you want to check out more music, and Girl Gone Wilder is on Spotify as well.
Absolutely. Check it
Dave,
out.
thank you for making such fantastic musical instruments. You're just
Thank you.
a great craftsman, and that's an extraordinarily rare thing. There's a tremendous amount of artistry and integrity in each one of these things, and this actually belongs to Susannah, but every once in a while I tell her, I'm happy to bring it back anytime you want, and I kind of hope she's just, I don't want it back.
I want it
Because
back.
I want to keep. Okay, all right, I'll bring it back.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'm so glad to hear that you're using it effectively in other projects and all that sort of thing. Because, I see these things all the time, and they go out into the universe, never hear back and find out like exactly what people are doing with them. So it's really nice to know that it's getting some love and it's still being used effectively for all sorts of different projects and uses. So thank you for doing that. Okay. Well, I think we're going to sign off with you
Thank
guys. So
you.
thank you very much. Daniel, I'm going to stay online for a little longer and do like a little bit of handpan workshop here, just a small little itty bitty one, and then we'll sign off for the day. So thanks again, Susannah and John, for being here. All right, we're going to move on just real quickly for anybody that's interested here at the very end. Just going to go over a couple things on the handpan. If you haven't heard about a handpan before, I'm just going to talk about how it's made and how it looks and the sounds that can come out of it and that sort of thing. So this is the handpan. Kind of looks like a flying saucer, like you've seen throughout this interview. The hole in the bottom is called the goo hole. The note on top is called the ding, D-I-N-G. I think John in the interview called it the big fat one. So this is called the ding note. Around the edge of the handpan, we've got these other notes. Some people call them tone fields. So frequently I call them tone field notes now. And each one of them is tuned to a pitch. So the middle one here is a D. Then it goes from low to high, kind of in a circular fashion here. Let's see if I can show it to you on camera. I'm not sure. Kind of like this. So you can see how it moves around the instrument like that. Some people talk about the notes in a numeric way, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some people use the names like a letter name, like D, A, C, D, E, F, G, A. You can see that on screen there. There's also some metal between the notes called interstitial metal. And the interstitial metal is made not to really resonate, and it's supposed to be rigid. But you can use that area for techniques that involve like a percussive sound, like a snare drum sound. So you could use the ding note as a bass drum. And you can use this like a snare drum. Like that, so you can get some rhythms going. So the handpan has all sorts of different things to offer to a musician that's playing it. And as we were talking about in the interview, it's got all sorts of little nuances. Techniques and harmonics that are on the instrument that can be played by an experienced handpan player. And like John was saying, you can bend notes like that. So we call that a pitch bend. So there are all sorts of fun little techniques that you can learn on the handpan. I'm not going to go into it too much today because we've had a long interview already, but that is the handpan. Here at DII, we sell 3 different kind of handpans. We sell the Luna model, which is 20 inches in diameter, and it has usually 8 notes on top. We've recently come out with some that have notes on the bottom. And so we count the notes on the bottom. We add those into the total number of notes that are on the handpan. And so we call one of our models the Luna 11 because it has 11 total notes, 8 on top and 3 on the bottom. And we also have another different model. I don't have a sample here for you, but it is called the Aurus model, A-U-R-O-U-S. It means gold, and it's got appearance. And on the screen, you can see what the Aurus looks like on the bottom there in the image. It's made out of stainless steel. This Luna handpan is made out of plain steel, which is just like a regular generic steel, but it's got low carbon, which means it's a little softer than regular steel that you would get at Home Depot. Then the stainless steel, very specific type of stainless steel, and it still resists corrosion, but it has a different sound, and it has a little bit more sustain to it. So it's a very dreamy instrument. And people really love it. We also have another handpan called the Ohm Hybrid, O-H-M. And the Ohm Hybrid handpan has tongues on the bottom. So it has the handpan notes on top, but on the bottom, it's got tongues. It looks like Daniel's trying to bring up, there it is, a little image there on screen. On the bottom, oh, cool, little split image right there. So there's tongues on the bottom, and you can play it with like a tongue drum on the bottom and handpan on top. And it's a really amazing instrument, which, by the way, is patented, designed by myself and a friend named Graham Doe. And we got the patent a couple years ago. And so we're the only ones in the world that are making that instrument, hybrid. So it's a really fabulous instrument. It has amazing projection and a very, very meditative sound, where if you have it playing it in a yoga situation or something like that, or a meditation situation, it's very, very meditative, very haunting, real wonderful sound. So check those out. I'm just going to play a little bit of something here to let you guys out of the live video here today. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the discussion with Susannah and John. I hope they can be back one of these days in the future, and hopefully we can do another project together. That'd be wonderful. So Daniel, is there anything else before I take off?
No, Dave, you are good. Susannah, if you want to stay on, we can talk afterwards. And Dave, awesome. I learned so much today from Susannah and them, just talking about the tech stuff. I love it. I love that.
Yeah, really good stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, and oh my God, Susannah had a great voice on that song. That was the first one I heard, the Way Okay. Oh my God, I love it. I told it.
Oh yeah, she's got a great voice.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
Yeah. One other thing before I start playing on moving on, is we've got a DII community now. So if anybody has not signed up for the DII community is a learning place, kind of like a learning platform of videos and classes. So we've just started it this month, and on our website you can find where to get into that. It's kind of like our own little social media platform where It has lessons, and on each lesson, you can ask specific questions and carry on discussions with each other and myself. And if you have any specific questions about a certain lesson, you can get help with that. It also has a DIY community portion where you can just engage with other people that own handpans and talk about handpans. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, you can just discuss those online. It's like I said, a little mini social media site with lessons and everything. We're going to be expanding those lessons soon, and we're going to be growing that a lot more into the future. So we're really excited about the DIY community. So check it out, and we'd love to see you there. Otherwise, see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to play a little here.